very hard to value growth stocks. A lot of people have an easy time valuing value stocks, which the term is a little bit of a misnomer. Value stock has come to mean a company that's not growing quickly and that the company's value is at some low multiple. But the reality is that whenever you want to value a company, whether it's low growing, no growing, negative growth, or high growth, or very high growth, the job of an investor is to value the company. And it's harder to do when the company is a high growth company. I'll give you a really good example. When Google went public in a Dutch auction, there was one value investor who bought 5% of the company. His name was Steve Mandel, a tiger cub called Lone Pine. Google was growing very rapidly, and for a lot of people, the valuation was just a little off. It was too expensive. But Mandel saw that a company that could reliably grow revenue at 20% and therefore grow earnings at 40% was worth a lot. And the compounding machine would take care of things over time. Obviously, Google went public in the tens of billions and is now, in the trillions. It's a very important lesson for people to understand that long-term revenue growing is very hard to value. And you should play around with DCFs and realize that 200 times earnings, 400 times earnings can paradoxically be cheap. The reason a lot of people are averse to hearing, 200 times earnings, that sounds expensive. Well, yes, if you're growing at 1% a year, 200 times earnings is expensive. But if earnings are doubling, well, 200 times becomes 100 times, becomes 50 times, which becomes 25 times, and you still probably have a lot of growth. So ultimately, try to understand operating leverage and margins for a business. Try to understand what the growth is. If the growth is 68%, which is what Palantir's last quarter revenue growth rate is, the true operating leverage earnings growth is probably over 100%. So if your earnings are growing over 100% and it's even accelerating, maybe even going to be 200%, it's not going to be that surprising when Palantir is actually trading for around 40 times earnings, which for such a big grower and good management team is actually pretty cheap. So again, try to sort of get your head around companies that are not Coca-Cola or GM and try to understand how to value really high growth companies. Focus on cash flow is my advice. ChatGPT is like, that's not value investing, that's gambling. ChatGPT always has the same like little things. Um, no, it is hard to value growth stocks. That's what makes them so tricky. They look expensive. The real question on a growth stock is, will the growth continue? And the second the growth drops, as you can see from Duolingo dropped 30% yesterday because there's like sneaking suspicion maybe growth was slowing. I mean, look at this. This company is growing like crazy. Take a look at the sales growth. Forget the earnings growth. The earnings growth is 100%, 400%, 300%. The sales growth, I want you to zoom in on this, Jamie. The sales growth for Duolingo, look at this. 40% revenue growth. 47, 44, 41, 37 for this year, 20 for next year. That's a lot of growth. But the stock dropped because there's questions, there's hints. Maybe the revenue growth's not going to persist. Maybe they're under siege. That's a big problem, right? So the question is, when will that appear for Palantir? It might. That's the question. Palantir is accelerating instead of decelerating, and that's the surprise.